So that. We're going to do Hayam Bays. Hayam Bays, there's little brackets right in the middle of the page. Ketzad Mekanala. Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. It's of learning, we should have Beis Hamikdash immediately. Tomorrow is the hardest day. I think for me at least. And the morning of after the Seder is the hardest day. But after the B'dik is also quite hard. We're getting there. So Ketzad Mekanala. Ketzad Mekanala. How does he warn her? Talking about the husband warning the wife that she shouldn't be secluded. So it's a quote from the Mishnah. The Mishnah actually gave us like a strange example. It says if he tells her not to speak with someone and then she speaks with him, so she's still fine. But if she secluded with him, then it's a problem. So the Gemara now analyzes this. Hagufakash. This is self-contradictory. Amrit Amala B'fnei Shnayim. The Mishnah says that if he said to her in front of two people, Al Tadabri Mishplain Yizeh, don't speak with this fellow, so-and-so. Alma Dibar Stiru. That means from his warning, he made it look like speaking with her is already considered a seclusion. That's what he was warning her against. Stira is seclusion. And Kina is warning. So when we asked, how does he warn her not to be secluded? He says, don't speak with her. So it looks like speaking is the problem. Alma Dibra Stira Vahaditani, and then it says, Dibri Yimai, if she spoke with him, she does speak with this so-and-so, so then she's still permissible to her husband, and she's permissible to Truma. Alma Dibra Leiklamu. We see that speaking is nothing. The setup of the Mishnah is strange because it introduced it, making it look like that was considered stira. Amar Abaya Hachikam Abaya says this is what it means. Al Tadabri Vidibra. This is what it's saying. Don't speak with him. She spoke with him. Al Tadabri, don't speak with him. Vinistra, and she was secluded with him. Look at that bracket. It says V'lei Klum. So still all considered nothing because she wasn't warned not to be secluded with him. She was warned not to speak with him. So there was no warning.
Regardless if she's warned or not,
It's prohibited. Yeah. But she's not going to be prohibited to her husband just from a seclusion. Yeah. Let's say someone goes into the house, a man is into the house, cleaning or something. The husband's not in town. And there's yichud. The laws of yichud are violated. She's still permissible to her husband.
It's during the day in town.
Those are when the laws are not violated. Let's say the laws were violated, but she's totally innocent. Whatever, she's innocent. She doesn't even know the guy. He was there fixing the ceiling. So she's still permissible. But if she's warned, altisteri v'dibri, she's warned, don't be secluded with him, and all she does is speak with him, then still adayin materes l'beis materes l'achal b'tshuma. She's still permissible to her husband. The whole problem would be by nechnasim l'beis haseisa v'shas kedektem asur l'beis asur l'achal b'tshuma. It's only if she was warned, don't be secluded, and then she was secluded, and they waited the amount of time of kedektem, which we discussed yesterday and the day before, then she's prohibited to her husband from then on because of the doubt. And also, she cannot eat truma if the husband was a kohen. She's already considered out of his house, and she can't eat the truma that normally a wife is able to eat if she's the wife of kohen. Okay, so what did Abaya do for us?
Anyone ever made a calculation of all those times that they said as long as it takes to eat an apple, eat an egg, and the branches? Are we talking about a minute, 10 minutes? Anyone ever do a conversion of that into real time?
Well, when they say in the
All
yichud
those
room,
different items.
they say in the yichud room, you have to wait there amount of time. So the witnesses have to stand outside waiting, and some say it's 4 minutes or 5 minutes or 8 minutes or this or that. So that's all of those calculations. Including Taisvis's comment that Yerushalmi says also to remove the clothing. Okay.
Sorry to you on this question.
Okay. What does Abaya help? He's saying that you have to divide the Mishnah into two clauses. You have the clause of Al Tadabri, you have the clause of Al Tistri. Now, we never mentioned Al Tistri, but that's implied, so you have to just add that in. You have one part of the Mishnah that says don't speak with him, which comes out from that nothing. There's no prohibition. And then you have the other part of the Mishnah that says don't be secluded with him. And then that depends if she spoke with him or she was secluded. Okay. What do you mean? The husband warned her? Okay.
And it's not like included in there.
No, apparently not. She's very literal. It's Amelia Bedelia. Don't speak with him, and she was secluded, and it's still fine. She's going to say, I didn't talk to him. I'm telling you, I didn't say anything. Okay. And he says, you know what I meant. Well, that's what you said. Okay. If the husband passes away after the seclusion, the warning and the seclusion, so then passed away without any children to this couple. So then the brother of the husband is not allowed to do yibum. Instead, he does chalitza. Gemara says, Amai. Why can he not do yibum? Let him do yibum. Rav Yosef says, Amar Kra. We have a pasuk that discusses this. It says, V'yatsa mi beisai. It says that what happens to a woman that gets divorced, she goes and she marries another man. Okay. This woman that's getting divorced from her husband, right, is gonna go marry another man. So the Gemara learns from that other man, it's another man, but not to the yavam. She can't marry the yavam. Okay, so Rabbi Yosef says we have a pasuk that says that she can't do yibum. Amalei Abaya says to Rabbi Yosef is his teacher. He says, Elamayata, if that's the case, chalitza nami like tibai. If the pasuk says that you can't do yibum, so then you don't have to do chalitza, because that goes hand in hand. The way you get out of yibum is through chalitza, but if there's no yibum, then you don't need chalitza. Amalei. So Rabbi Yosef responds, Ilu isa labal milabay get. 1 second. If the husband was still alive, she would need a get. So ashtanami tibai chalitza. So in order to get out of the brother-in-law, she needs chalitza.
So this was if his wife was unfaithful, she won't be having son.
If the wife was unfaithful, but we don't have two witnesses to it. So all that's going to happen is she's supposed to get divorced. But instead of getting divorced, her husband died. And now she's supposed to be doing yibum. We say that she doesn't do yibum, she does chalitza. They say, why is she doing chalitza? She should just go free. So we said, well, if her husband was alive, she would have required a get from him. So now that the husband isn't alive, then the brother-in-law is alive. So she needs chalitza from the brother-in-law. So chalitza is like the last stretch of this. We didn't really answer the question. She won't get a ksuba because she wasn't faithful. Taisvus asks the question, he pushes the question further. He says, So you're telling me that every time the husband would require a get, that means that there's automatically chalitza from the. This is not true. Let's say she would have been definitely a saita. Then for sure she doesn't. Then, or let's say she was an islandess. Remember, islandess doesn't do yibam. You're gonna say that she needs to do chalitza.
Is this still like a suffix?
The putter from the Yibum without a chalitza.
Right. This is called a suffix saita. Saita suffix. She's only prohibited to her husband, but that doesn't mean that she's prohibited to the yavam. So chalitza is still required.
So there's enough of the secret.
Yeah, to require chalitza.
Yeah.
Amalei abaya. Did I just skip? Yeah, just skip. Vistami. There are those that say this a little different. Amar Rab Yosef. Rab Yosef says, Rachman Amar Yatzmei Beisav Ha'isa V'Alcha V'Isa L'Shachet L'Lei Listre L'Beisik. The Torah says that she should get divorced. Why? Because Kimatza Ba'erva Stavar, because we found her unfaithful. So she's supposed to get divorced. And you're suggesting, Abaya, that she should do Yibum? We're getting her out of this marriage because she's not faithful. And you're suggesting that the Torah require her to get into a new marriage? So Abaya says, if that's the case, then why is she allowed to get married to anyone? She'll be secluded again to the next husband, not with the next husband, but being married to the next husband, she'll be secluded with, she's an adulteress. This is what she likes to do. So why are you suggesting that that she shouldn't be what Rabbi Yosef is saying is that she shouldn't be allowed to get married to anyone? And so Abaya says, so why does the Torah say that she is allowed? Amalei, so Rabbi Yosef says no. Mikara minan ala balkarcha wasn't saying that she shouldn't get married, saying that the Torah doesn't require her to get married. The Torah can't impose a new husband on her as the yivam, the yavam, would be an imposing a new husband. She's allowed to go get married again, but the Torah's not going to say, okay, here's your new husband automatically. She just messed up her first marriage. The Torah's not going to say, okay, replace him with the brother.
What she did is a suffix, though. So she wouldn't be a suffix.
Yeah, but on that doubt, she's considered the suffix is the saita is the suffix. Okay. That's the saita. It's just we don't know what actually happened.
Before she shrinks.
Right.
Suffix will stand.
Yeah. You're asking a good question. Asking where are we holding over here? Talking about where she drank or she didn't drink. So the answer is that the husband died. So there's no drinking after the husband died. So there was never any drink. There would only be drinking if the husband was there. That's the way. Yeah, if she drank, then she's either innocent or guilty. And then the case is. So Ikadarmi, there are those that say this conversation a little different. That Amar Rabbi Yosef, this is our third try on what Rabbi Yosef said, not a try, but it's a third option. How Rabbi Yosef said this. Kasu Kari Acher She'ein Ze Ben Zugay Shel Rishon Sheze Haitzi Rishami Beisev Ze Hichnes Rishal Teich Beisev Va'atamrit Tisyam Nami Yivumi. It's like a term explaining the word acher. She leaves her husband, talking about a woman that gets divorced, probably because of she wasn't faithful. So she gets divorced. And then she goes to another husband, acher, another husband. Says, you know why he's called acher? Because he's very different from the first husband. First husband got rid of a wife that isn't faithful. And this one is taking an unfaithful wife into his own house. And now you're suggesting, Rabbi Yosef says, and now you're suggesting that the Torah say that she does Yibam, which we even call the guy Acher. We call the guy that takes someone else, which is like a derogatory term. Amalei Abaya says, well, let's say she does get married to someone else. according to you. Well, there's no yibum, so she marries someone else. Now the second husband dies. So should she do yibum on the second husband? For the brother of the second husband, should she do yibum in that case? Well, this fellow was called Acher. Now you want her to marry someone else? Acher means another. It means another, like with the hand going like that. Some other guy. This, like that. So maybe they shouldn't do yibum on that case as well. So what Abaye did was he extended this case to a new husband, and we said that in the case of the adultery or the suffix saita, the saita, we say that there is no yibum. So why? Because of the title that the person gets, the new husband, right? You're trying to say you do yibum, the new husband is acher. Why are you gonna? Okay, so now we're saying that. Okay, so she marries another husband, and then he dies. Now, should she do yibum now for this? And what's the question? Well, this person is different than the new husband, maybe than the brother-in-law, because this one brought the wife into the house. Well, Amalei, the Gemara answers without saying that Rabbi Yosef responded. It says, "Gabei dahai miya b'shem teiv havikaima." What are you talking about? With this person, she had a good name.
The second one,
The second husband, right?
but you call them Ach.
Well,
He wasn't.
it's only called Ach by the marriage after that first divorce. But now he's not. Now it switches. Now he's not considered because she was faithful. She was faithful, and because of that, so he doesn't have the title anymore. Rava says Kalvachimer. Rava says that the reason why there's no yibam is because there's a Kalvachimer. Kalvachimer goes like this: Im nesra b'mutala. See,
The first husband.
she's allowed to be married to the first husband before there was any problem, right? First husband was just another man. But because of the adultery, she becomes prohibited to the first husband. Now, how does the second husband come into play? How does the Yavam, the brother-in-law, how does he come in? Because the first marriage, the marriage to the first husband created two things. First, the own marriage, plus a connection, if he dies, to the new husband. So he says like this: if that first marriage becomes messed up, becomes prohibited because she commits adultery, so if that messes up the marriage which she was permitted to at that moment, so the brother-in-law which she's prohibited to at that moment, for sure should not be permitted, because she's only permitted to the brother-in-law if the husband dies. While the husband is alive, it's considered Eishasach. It's considered the wife's, the brother's wife, sister-in-law. Can't marry a sister-in-law. Well, so Kal V'Chaimer goes like this: Im nesra b'mutala, if she becomes prohibited to the one that she's permissible to, which is the husband, the brother-in-law, should she for sure not be prohibited to? Even the one that she was permitted to, she's prohibited to. Amalei Abaya says, if that's the case, now you have to be precise here in how you translate this. A kain gadol that betroths a widow. Now, kain gadol is not allowed to marry a widow. Well, he's not allowed to marry the widow. Is he allowed to betroth a widow? Well, that's the beginning of the problem. But let's say right now, kain gadol shekidesh salmana. He does the betrothal. Now umes, and then he dies. Now he never finished the marriage. If he would have finished the marriage, she would become a halala. It would mess up the whole thing. Okay, he never finished the marriage. He never lived with her. It was only a betrothal, and he dies. Now that's betrothal is still a marriage, so there's still yibam performed by a betrothal. So the brother now, who's a regular kayan, not the kayan gadol, his other brother took over as the kayan gadol. This brother now is the regular kayan hedyet. Leitis yabim, you want to say should not do. Well, no, it's asking leitis yabim should not do yibam. Why? And the logic would go like this: Im nesra b'mutala. if she's prohibited to marry, the Kain Gadol.
And while he's alive, she's not allowed to marry the
And Ba'asala, while he's alive, she can't marry the Kain Hedit. Like Kolskin, for sure, she can't marry this brother.
But there's no chalitza.
That's what we're suggesting, that there should be no Yibam. The Gemara has a question over here. Gemara says, one second. Nesra. Skipping. Nesra, you're calling this that she's becoming prohibited to the husband, which is the Kain Gadol. Basir v'kaima. She was usher before the marriage. See, Nesra means that she becomes
married. She's also
prohibited through the marriage. She's not becoming prohibited through the marriage. She's prohibited before the marriage.
Right.
Before anything, she was always prohibited to him. She was a widow. So now it says, Mutala, the brother-in-law is permissible too. Asalahu. I'm sorry, no, not the brother, the husband. Now you're calling her, but Mutala, she becomes prohibited to the one that she's permissible to. Asalahu. She was never permitted to this man. So she doesn't become prohibited, and she was never permissible. We have a problem with the whole phrase over here. Ella, rather, what Abaya's question is Eishes Kayan Shenensa Umes. Very interesting. The wife of a Kayan gets raped. Now, the rule is that a woman that's raped is permissible to her husband, but not if the husband is a Kayan. That they learn out from, have a source for this. Well, the Kayan has a brother. Yeshle Achalo. The Kayan has a brother that's also from the same father, but he's a Chalo. How's he a Chalo? Because the father was married to a regular Jewish woman and had one brother. Then he gets married to a woman that he was prohibited to marry, like a divorcee. And they have another child, which that child is not a Kayan. So now we actually have a brother-in-law, brothers, one's a Kayan, one's not a Kayan. One's a Chalo.
She technically was allowed to.
So the first one, she was raped. She's married to the first one that's a Kayan, she's raped, so she can't marry the first one. But the second one, the brother-in-law, the Yavam, she could be married to, theoretically, because if she would have been married to, because he's not a Kayan. So, like this Yabam, according to you, you shouldn't do Yibam. Why? Because if her husband that was permissible to her is now prohibited to her, so the brother-in-law, which was always prohibited to her until the death of the husband, is that not a Kal V'Chaimer that she should be prohibited to, according to Rava's Kal V'Chaimer? This is Abaye and Rava discussing this. The Gemara says, Rava would respond that Einis be Yisrael Mishra Shari. This is not, there's no prohibition here. This is something that's very specific to the Kain. V'gabi dahai like the Yisura. Is that repetitive? V'gabi dahai. Sounds like it's repetitive. Einis be Yisrael Mishra Shari v'gabi dahai like the Yisura. So in other words, Yibam is yes performed. You can't say that this is a Kal V'Chaimer exactly the way Rava was saying. According to Rava was saying that there's a Kal V'Chaimer here, that if she becomes prohibited to her first husband because of the adultery, so for sure she should be prohibited to the Yavam, because the whole marriage was based on, the whole Yibam was based on the first marriage, which is now corrupted. Okay, so Abaye says if that's the case, then if that's a Kal V'Chaimer, if that's a Kal V'Chaimer to say that if the first marriage, which she was prohibited to, so the second marriage is also, then you should say the same thing if she was raped and her first husband's a Kayan, the second marriage, the brother-in-law, the brother that's not a Kayan, she shouldn't be allowed to do Yibam. So Rava says no, because the prohibition of this never applied to. See, if she's commits adultery, so that prohibition applied to the first husband, it would apply to the second husband. It would make them both prohibited. But here, the prohibition of the rape of that makes her prohibited to the husband does not apply at all to the second husband, because the second husband is not a kayan. Okay. Now we have a new Mishnah that says Ve'elo aseres milachol b'truma. Following women are not allowed to eat truma. If the husband was a kayan, normally the whole household of the kayan is allowed to eat truma. These women cannot. How many are we going to have here? We'll have five women that can eat truma. If a woman goes along and admits, she says, I admit I was committed adultery. Why do we believe her at all? She really shouldn't be believed. I guess we believe her because Shavi nafshei chaticha d'isura. You know, we shouldn't believe it. There's no such thing as self-incrimination. We don't trust her. We need witnesses. Prove it. Maybe she's got something up her sleeve. Maybe she wanted to get out of the marriage, and maybe we don't know. You can't just believe her. But over here, she's accepting on herself this prohibition. It's like she's accepting on herself the prohibition to eat truma. So, because she's saying that I'm tmeya. So she's accepting on herself. So that, yeah. Shabo edim she tmeya. Let's say witnesses show up that she's tamei. Okay, so she's not going to drink. Why doesn't she get the death penalty? I don't know. But meanwhile, whatever the case is, she's not eating truma. Says she refuses to drink the Sota water.
I feel like the death penalty is coupled with the Sota water. Like if her stomach explodes, that would be considered like.
No, the death penalty is yeah. You're right that she does. If she's guilty, then she dies.
No, but if it's obvious.
But otherwise, if there's witnesses that she committed adultery, then they have a real death penalty. Okay. They actually kill her, not just feed her Sota. Sota is only when there's a doubt. Right. Let's say the husband says, I don't want her to drink. I'm not taking her to drink. So she already is prohibited from truma. Two stubborn people in. Or let's say the husband couldn't control himself and lived with her along the way. They were actually forbidden from each other because he suspects her of committing adultery. He warned her. There's actually a witness or two that she was secluded, so that they're now prohibited from being together. But the husband, on the way taking her to the courthouse, not to the courthouse, to the Beis Hamikdash, he lives with her.
You have to give her a get?
He may have to give her a get if she. 1 second. Does he have to give her a get? No. Either she's innocent because the Sota waters don't work, or she's guilty and she dies. But there wouldn't be a get over here unless another witness would show up and say that she's tamei. One witness would require the get. One witness that says that she is guilty would require it. Rav Amram says, "Ha milsa Amar lan Rav Sheshes." Rav Sheshes taught us something, the following, where we're about to say, but va'ana lan einim mi masnisim. But he proved it. He made our eyes shine because of the Mishnah. Okay, first we have to say what Rav Sheshes said, and then we'll see how the Mishnah proves that. What Rav Sheshes said was, let's say in a faraway country, there are witnesses that she's guilty. She's probably traveling and she committed adultery over there while she's traveling, and people in that other country know about it. Now she's back home. Okay, so what Rav Sheshes says is that the water doesn't work because there's witnesses. The water doesn't work when there's witnesses. The water only works when there's no witnesses. Now, it turns out we don't know about those witnesses. Those witnesses aren't here. But if you want to know why the Sota water didn't work, was because there's some details that are off. There were actual witnesses.
Like
witnesses to the act. Yeah, not to the seclusion. Yes. So how do we know about the seclusion? We know about the seclusion. My case is not a case. We need to have a witness or two to the seclusion, depending on Rebbe Lezer, be sure that they were secluded. But we don't know about the act. Some other people know about the act. They're not here.
How do you know that?
We don't know.
Site doesn't work because she was innocent.
Okay, so that's creating a complication here where we'll see. Wait for that. Where we'll get into that. Okay. My timer. What's the reason? Damar Kra, Rav Sheshes says a pasuk says V'nistra v'hinitma ve'edeinba. She's secluded, she's impure, and we don't have a witness. The lack of the other ba. That's when do we say that this works? That's because no one knows about it. Ve'edeinba. Lafukeha. That's excluding this woman. The other ba because there are people that know about it. Okay, that's the statement of Rav Sheshes. And he proves it from our Mishnah. Why? Witnesses come that she's impure. Says that she does not eat truma. Witnesses come. 1 second. The asu edim emas. When did those witnesses come? We asked when we learned Mishnah. We mentioned that how she is still alive, right? So when did these witnesses come? Did they come before she drank? Zainah. She's a regular Zainah. She's a prostitute, which means over here an adulteress. She doesn't drink. She gets killed. What are you telling me that she doesn't eat truma? Of course she's asa b'truma until the death, whatever. Ella labasa d'shas. It must be that she drank already. Aha. If you're going to accept Rav Sheshes's opinion that the water doesn't work when there are witnesses, so shaper, that's how she's still alive. But if we say that the waters do check her, even though there are witnesses, the waters check her. So tiglei milslam afraid the sadi shakrinenu. Then we know already. The witnesses come after the water, then we'll know if the waters are supposed to check her, even though there's witnesses. So the waters are the witnesses are liars, because the waters prove to us that she's innocent.
You don't make her drink though. There's witnesses.
Well, the witnesses came later. She drank and she's innocent. The witnesses come running in and say she's guilty. So if the waters don't work, certain waters should trump the witnesses. But if you say that the witnesses that the waters don't work when there's witnesses, then the waters are not a proof. If you say that
came first.
But if you say that the waters would still check, then we'd say whoever came first. Well, not whoever came first. The waters prove that she's innocent. Okay, that was the comment of Rav Sheshes, the rule of Rav Sheshes that the waters don't work, and the proof of Rav Sheshes was from our Mishnah that obviously the waters don't work because there's witnesses that are showing up that she's tamei, and we're trusting them. Obviously, the waters don't work. Amalei Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Laila Meimelach, Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshes are contemporaries. He says, Laila Meimelach, I could really tell you, Mayim Baitkim, I said the waters do work. But we have another rule. The waters don't always, it's not always instant where the woman goes like that and she dies. It's possible that this woman was a special woman. She has some merits. Maybe she was the head of some Sheikh Chabad, some of the head of the Chesed organization. She has some special. So she doesn't die right away. So she's what's going to happen to her? Let's take a look. It's going to see. So if that's the case, that she doesn't die right away, then it's possible that the witnesses are really saying the truth. Not that the waters don't work. The waters do work, but it's still, there's a delay.
In that case, that doesn't work instantly, and it seems like Hashem is giving an opportunity. Not about opportunity, it's just delay.
It's a delay.
But if it doesn't happen instantly, it's a delay. She can't do the tshuva, or maybe
She could do tshuva, but it doesn't help with the way the court works and all of that. Tshuva doesn't work with the courts. Hashem.
But yeah, Hashem is only control whether she wants or she
Oh.
doesn't.
Interesting. Nevertheless, I think this is I think that's like saying Hashem controls if the the burning of her is going to happen. If she's supposed to be burnt, or if she's supposed to be killed by the sword, or whatever. The Hashem controls that also. Yeah, but there's still what the court does, and it's supposed to be effective.
No, but okay, that's the way it works.
They drank the water. That's what the baby did.
Right.
Hashem controls if she
It's-
pops
right.
instantly or
Or
2
later.
days later.
Right.
But in between those 2 days, she does true. Like, was there ever an example that
I don't know about that. I don't know. Let's you'll take a look, and maybe it'll get clear. The Maika Miflagi. What is the machlekes Reb Sheshes and Reb Yosef? So it goes like this: the Misnabna the Rebbe. Let's say, how do they translate Misnabna? Like deteriorating? Like Rebbe's talks about the deterioration of this woman. It goes like this. The Tanan, we have a Mishnah later on. Rebbe Yomer, Rebbe says, Chus Teila b'mayim amarim. The merits can delay the bitter waters. Ve'ina yeledes. Is it called bitter waters? Or is it called cursed waters? What is marim? Bitter waters. Ve'ina yeledes, ve'ina meshabeches. She doesn't have extra children. It says that if she's innocent, then the waters cause that her children should become better and healthier and all of that, or have children. She doesn't. There's no improvements. She deteriorates and continues until at the end she dies with the same death that a Sota dies with, which means her stomach bursts, her thighs collapse. So Rebbe is of the opinion that there is a delay. If there's a delay, then we can see that the witnesses that came after are still telling the truth. Still telling the truth. Okay. It's not a proof to Reb Sheshes that the fact that there's witnesses showing up and she already drank that the waters don't work. There was a delay. Could be. Could be. It's not discussing the punishment aspect of it. It's discussing here, is it possible for there to be witnesses that she's guilty, even though she already drank the water? The answer is yes, according to Rabbi Yosef, because there was a delay. Rav Sheshes Savar, Bein l'Rebbe, Bein l'Rabbanan, Havi Misnabna. Rav Sheshes says that if she's guilty, then there's going to be deterioration in her. If she's not guilty, then she's going to improve. What about if the waters don't work at all? Because there's witnesses. So then you won't be able to tell but there's going to be no deterioration. She won't deteriorate at all. So Rav Sheshes says, according to both opinions, it's because the waters don't work. That's why there was no deterioration. You see, so what's the difference, Rebbe and the Rabbanan? Rebbe says that she deteriorates and she dies with that death. According to the Rabbanan, she also deteriorates, but she just doesn't die with that death. Rav Yosef Savar, the Rebbe have a misnavna. Rav Yosef says different. No, according to Rebbe, you're right, she deteriorates. The Rabbanan lay have misnavna. According to the Rabbanan, there's no deterioration at all. So it's very possible that the fact that you see, we're trying to prove from the Mishnah that the waters don't work. According to Reb Sheshes, we can prove that the waters don't work when there's witnesses somewhere else. You see, because there was no deterioration. Obviously, the waters don't work. According to the Rav Yosef, you can't prove that the waters don't work because there's no deterioration, because according to the Rabbanan, there's no deterioration when there's chusim. She just stays regular. She doesn't deteriorate.
But what exactly is the truth? Is it the witness or the waters?
She's guilty
Because of the witness.
because there's witnesses. So why is there no deterioration?
Right.
So it could be because, according to Rav Sheshes, it's because the waters don't work, because there's witnesses. According to Rav Yosef, you can't prove that from the Mishnah. It could be the waters do work. So why is there no deterioration? Because according to the Rabbanans, chus taila. Masav Rav Simi Barashi. Simi Barashi says, Rav Shimon Aimer, Rav Shimon says, "Ein schus teila b'mayim amar." Shimon says, "There's no such thing as chusim b'mayim amar. You can't have any merits." V'mata Aimer schus teila b'mayim amar. If you say that there's merits and there's this one is exempt and that one is exempt and this one, oh, you have this and that, then the whole thing just falls apart. No, the women, they're supposed to admit their guilt. You know that what this water does, right? You know, this water blows people up if they're guilty. But if they know about that, if there's a schus, it may not work. And the last one that came, it was fine. And this one, yeah, it happens all the time where nothing happens. So they won't admit. The whole thing falls apart. The whole can't keep a system like that, where everyone is an exception. So, and then it's going to look bad for all those people that drank and survived, because they were going to say that, you know what, they were actually guilty, but it's because of the tzedakah they gave on the way in. All right. So that's Reb Shimon's view. If you're going to say, according to Reb Shimon, if you're going to say, fine, there's no such thing as chus teila, but Eidim in Medina Sayam, if people know about it somewhere else, you say that's teila. You have the same problem. You're always going to say that maybe all those people that were found innocent were really guilty. So why are we saying that they're innocent? Well, why didn't they die if they're guilty? Because there were witnesses somewhere else. It's actually an improvement. If people know about it, it's actually an improvement. And that's why they survived. Gemara says, "You asking a kasha on Reb Shimon? The Reb Shimon kamret. You asking on Reb Shimon? The Reb Shimon midas chus leital yedim nam leital." Reb Sheshes was never saying, according to Reb Shimon, that edim are going to work that will cause the water to be ineffective. Reb Sheshes was saying in the other opinions, according to the opinions that chus teila, then we can say that the water is also. That the witnesses also cause it not to work. But according to Reb Shimon, we'll never say that the waters ever don't work. Must have Rav has a question. Following women, their carbon mincha has to be burnt. In other words, it's not offered on the altar, it's burnt outside the temple because there's a problem with the carbon mincha. Let's say she says that she's guilty. So now the carbon mincha is only brought if she's supposed to go through the Sota process. She's not going to go through the Sota process because she says she admitted already. Let's say witnesses show up. Okay. Now let's take a look. Let's analyze this. When does those witnesses show up? If you want to say that they showed up before the offering was put into the vessel. Brand new offering. The food was said it's going to be a mincha, but it wasn't consecrated in the vessel. If that's the case, then that whole thing was a mistake. It was never in the vessel. She's not bringing the mincha. It was a mistake. So it should just go to chulin. You don't have to burn it. It must be that you already put the flour into the vessel. It's a barley flour. Now, if you say that the waters would test her according to not according to Reb Sheshes, that the waters check her, even though there's witnesses, Alma bas mikdash mekaravu, that this is a good sacrifice because the waters are going to work. And when you consecrated it originally, it was correct. So that's why if the mincha was supposed to be brought, so then now we have to burn it. If you accept Reb Sheshes' view that the waters don't work on such a case where there's witnesses, if the waters don't work, then when you consecrated it and you put it into the vessel, the whole thing was a mistake.
Something that was consecrated then
as a mistake.
Transferred to home, that's permissible to eat.
Yeah, if it was a mistake. If the whole thing was a mistake, we'll say it was a mistake because the waters don't work. She's not supposed to be drinking the water because there's witnesses. Put it into the vessel. The wrong thing. It's a mistake. Amar Rabbi Yehuda mi Descarta says, We're going to have to say like this. She put the water, she put the flour into the vessel. And that's why the sacrifice is a good sacrifice. But witnesses show up only after it was already put into the vessel, because the witnesses only became witnesses after the flour was put into the vessel. Why? Because in the courtyard of the Azara itself, she commits adultery again. The Chikadosh Mikara Shaper Kaddish.
And there's witnesses there.
And there's witnesses there. And originally, when you put it into the vessel, it was considered there were no witnesses, so that's why the sacrifice was good. Well, that's an answer to Rav. And that's an answer to Rav Sheshis based on the question that Rav asked. Rav asked, how could this sacrifice be a good sacrifice? There's witnesses there, according to Rav Sheshis, it shouldn't be good. The answer is that when it was put into the vessel, it was good. The witnesses came later. Maskeflar Mashashir. Mashashir says, but there's Pirchikuna that are watching her. There's security guards making sure that she doesn't commit adultery. Gemara says, oh, that's an easy answer. So since she commits adultery with the security, with the Pirchikuna. Ravashi says, she needed the bathroom. The Pirchikuna not letting her use the bathroom. They had to let her go to the bathroom. So when she was in the bathroom, she committed adultery with someone that was there, the cleaner. It must have been the guy that he warned her about. Young priests, the young Kayanim. The young Kayanim were the ones, the young priests were the ones that were supposed to be on guard. Yeah, this is where the Gemara says, hey, no, Shabbos Larayas, really. You can't have one. There's no such thing as a security for misbehavior like that. There's no such thing. The security of themselves will. It's Sneas patrol, it doesn't work. Rav Papa Amalaylam Kedamrin and Mikara. Rav Papa says, like we said originally, which means that there was witnesses that came from a previous, the Kamatepa Chulen. You said if that's the case, the whole thing is a mistake. Say, Midrabanan, we don't let it go to Chulen because that you take it out from Klisharis. We don't want to ever a sacrifice to be taken out from Klisharis. People say, oh, even though it was put into a holy vessel, you can now use it for something else, not take it in. We can't do that. Okay. We'll have to leave it here, even though we're in the middle of a piece.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good day.